everybody. Welcome back to Riverwalk Talk. My name is Chip Harrington. I started this little podcast almost a year ago, actually. I'm kind of coming full circuit. It's cold out again today, and I got my little winter coat on. But this is just a kind of a community service. I love to talk to some people, and one thing that's fun for me is to learn about somebody that I've known for a while, or maybe I'm just meeting them for the first time, because it seems like everybody has a story of some sort to tell, and it's always pretty interesting as far as I'm concerned. If you are interested in seeing previous shows, you can either look on my social media or go onto the YouTube page, Riverwalk Talk with Chip Harrington, and subscribe there. And there's about 36 or so videos up there, so you can see some past videos that I've had as well too. So today I'm going to be talking to an individual I've known for a long time, and my brothers played baseball with him back in the day. I worked with him in a different capacity, and he eventually became a school teacher here in Ludlow, and has since recently retired a little while ago. But I'm going to be talking to Mr. Marty Fanning about all sorts of things. Marty Fanning, how's it going?
Nice to see you, Chip.
Good to see you. Let's put you over here.
That your father was one of my baseball coaches.
Yes, my brothers and I were talking about that the other day, actually.
Mike was on the team.
Yeah, exactly. So I remember, your dad, Ed Fanning.
Yes.
I was a lifeguard at Howland Pond, and Ed was the commissioner, the recreation commissioner. Yeah.
I think 3 terms, maybe.
Yeah, he was there for a long time.
Yeah.
Super good guy. I mean, actually, you and your dad have a very similar personality. Very low-key, kind of chill. Your dad would come in, and that's when Howland Pond was actually, you worked there for a long time as well,
We got crowded. I did a couple summers there, as we say.
Yeah.
And we did get crowds, especially on the weekends.
Back in the day, you drive by now, but I mean, there was parking back then. There's no place to park now.
Right.
So, but anyway, we don't want to talk about it.
Good group of people we worked with.
It was fun. It was fun for sure. So, the reason I wanted to kind of, chat with you today, and thanks for accepting my invitation to do this, is that I have always looked at you as kind of being like one of those old school, really supportive community members. You're the guy in the booth announcing the soccer games and the football games.
So you get volunteered for jobs when you're a public school teacher.
Yeah.
Although those were good jobs to have.
Yeah.
Good non-paying jobs,
Yeah, exactly. But, and I think we were just talking a little bit before we put the little camera on there, that it gives you a way to connect with kids. But
yeah.
So you've had several different sort of careers, I would say. When I first, met you were a lifeguard at Howland Pond.
Probably.
You were working, I think, with my brother Joe. I think you and Joe worked together back in the day.
2 years together, yeah.
Yeah. But, then you kind of went on and you were a reporter for the Springfield newspaper. So, yeah, what was your career path?
Well, I said when we first came up, and kids would ask me at school, did you think you're going to be a teacher? Did you want to be a teacher? And I always would say I was kind of directionless coming out of high school. And, graduating in 1979 is a little bit different. You went to college, obviously, because you wanted to, but you didn't necessarily go for a specific job. You went for the education because the economy was different at that time.
Yep.
And so, I didn't necessarily think about teaching so much, but I took a lot of history classes because they interest me.
Mm-hmm.
And not surprising to students out there, I was the kid in class who never shut up.
Yeah.
And would answer the questions and present questions. So they sent me over to the education school and did student teaching at Belchertown High School.
Okay.
1983, Brian Balicki did it in 1982 at Belchertown High School.
Okay.
Kind of coincidental. And
yeah. Where'd you go for your undergrad?
UMass.
Okay. And it was education right away? You were into that education?
Well, I went in really without a major.
Okay.
And just took history classes mostly because I liked them, and that's how it kind of fell together, They sent me over to the ed school, and, and like I say, then I kind of just followed the path, and it worked out. But I did work out west for a year right out of college. I worked for the Albuquerque Dukes, who were the minor league team of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Okay.
So mostly, press release, PR stuff, organizational stuff. A great experience, although, renting an apartment with somebody I didn't know and sleeping in my sleeping bag on the floor for about 8 months. It lost its appeal after a while.
Yeah, the things you do, right?
So I came back, and got an interview with Lee High School and was there for 5 years.
Wow, okay.
And I probably would have still been there if, the economy hadn't changed and laying off a bunch of the younger teachers. And I
Right.
said earlier, 4 out of 5 years, I got laid off, and then finally, the job was gone after that.
Oh wow, interesting. Let's step back a little bit. I want to kind of go back to like a little bit your childhood, because you've always been really involved with baseball.
Yeah. Baseball is my favorite sport, but I played
Yep.
football, hockey as a young kid too.
Yeah. So tell me about, because mine growing up in town is that there was different sections of town, right? Like I grew up in
Definitely
Electric Park.
neighborhoods, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in Electric Park. So we had like, oh my God, 80 kids over there. You know, it was,
Yeah.
and we had our own park. You know, we'd have
Yes,
games
yes.
every single day, and then way up in like Grimard Street, they had their neighborhood,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then down here by the mills had their neighborhood, and then we would kind of get together and play,
Yeah,
ball
yeah.
games, just like pickup games.
Yeah,
But
we played a lot, especially street hockey against other neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But West Ave is where I grew up, across the street from the Turnpike. When I worked on the book, I had to do the Turnpike section because I saw the Turnpike every day.
Yeah.
But we would play other neighborhoods. Went to the Unity breakfast on Thanksgiving morning.
Yep.
And talked to Dean Lombardi in there, and I remember playing the Grimard Street Flyers and street hockey back in the day.
Yeah, yeah.
So, we would play, teams from East Street and whatever. And it was all completely kid organized,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it
Those
was
are good times.
you would leave your house at 9 in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe come home for lunch.
And we would joke around that we were free range kids,
We were.
And unfortunately, I think that's a lost time.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, it's important to keep track of everybody, but yeah, we'd leave at 9 in the morning and come back at
Yeah.
when the street lights went on.
Yeah, you figured things out at a different time, but it was But like I say, athletically, you kind of built this. You're always involved in things, and playing baseball and
Yeah.
football and everything like that. What teams were you on back in the day for
Yeah.
baseball?
Going to the Unity, we do the Unity AC teams, Ludlow Boys and Girls Club teams. That's what the organization that I mostly followed, the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
And then we play against the Christ the King, had their own, sports organization, St. Mary's.
Yep.
But I was kind of a Boys and Girls Club guy. I wasn't at the Boys and Girls Club all the time, but that was the organization that I followed through.
Yeah.
And mostly followed the older kids in the neighborhood, too, that played the sports. The Covington brothers, Steve McDaniels, the Riley
Yeah.
brothers. So just followed those kids all over,
Yeah. Yeah. It was an interesting time. And then so you get into Ludlow High School as a student.
Mm-hmm.
And did you play 4 years of baseball over there?
Yeah. Baseball was probably my number one sport. And, that's the one I followed the most. My father's a big baseball fan. And yeah, I played with Bill Colotti as the varsity coach.
Mm-hmm.
And Steve Marino, freshman coach, a lot of fun back in the day. And I think that's the one I had the most success for. Got to say, I'm not built like a linebacker, so baseball made a lot of sense for me.
And hockey? Did you play hockey?
I played hockey. I didn't play in high school, but I played youth hockey coming up.
Okay.
Our youth hockey back in the day, and this is something obviously we shouldn't be doing today, but we'd be skating on the river all the time,
Yeah.
From where I lived on West Ave, we'd just go through the back, and in the cove, we'd be playing hockey games after school, Saturday and Sundays, skating on the river, something I probably wouldn't suggest
Well,
people doing today.
we haven't gotten really winters like we used to get.
Definitely not frozen
Yeah.
like it used to be, so.
Right. So, at some point, as you're going through high school, did you have a career path that you were thinking about? Like, you kind of fell into education.
Again, I really didn't, Again, I say I'm directionless coming out of high school. It's true. I just figured that, I'd find something would come along, and it's probably not the greatest thing to set it up that way, but people did that more back then,
Yeah.
And my brother, 2 years older than me, had gone on to UMass, and my brother, top student. I was a good student, but he was a top student, was a math major at UMass. So I'd go up and visit him and say, okay, I could do this,
Yeah.
know. And so I just followed him up there. And, then, like I said, I had no major, just took classes that I enjoyed.
Okay.
That kind of all fell together. People just pushed me in that direction,
Right.
and I didn't push back,
Sure. Now, your dad worked for Springfield newspapers.
My father worked for Springfield newspapers for about 45 years, like right out of high school, and then out for a little bit, served in the Navy during the Korean War, and then came back, retired, I'm going to say, maybe about 96, 95.
Yeah.
And, he was in the composing room there. Actually, that's how I ended up working at the newspapers. Because when I did my student teaching at Belchertown, I said in the fall of '83, I had a part-time job, had a job at UMass, and I didn't think it was a wise idea to live in the UMass environment while I student taught. So I came home that semester.
Okay.
And lived at my parents' house, but I didn't have a job. And so my father said, okay, I'll get you a job here in the newspapers. I'll talk to these guys. Next thing I know, I'm covering high school sports.
Yes.
And I think I had a good affinity for it because they kept giving me more and more and more. And I stayed there for about 9 years. And, always part-time, but the time in which I got laid off, laid off from teaching, I was working about 30 hours a week.
Okay.
So really, when I transitioned out of teaching, not my choice, I was working at 2 jobs of, 30 hours and another 30 hours for the next 3 years,
Yeah.
And, that when Ludlow High School came along, I actually had some less hours.
Okay. I remember, well, because you were covering, like you said, high school sports at the time.
Yeah.
And I was a barefoot kicker. And I have an
yeah.
article that you wrote, and you're like, Chip Harrington's barefoot boot
good,
for like the, 45-yard field goal or
description.
something. Yeah, exactly. I still got it.
I still can't imagine why anybody want to do that in a cold day.
I know.
But I enjoyed that, and it actually had some good pathways for me there. And I think I wrote pretty well, at least enough to get me more stuff. So I did do a few other things in sports. I say I was on the front page of every section in that paper, and I wrote a couple magazine articles.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So now I got the book in there, so I got this
Yeah.
crazy literary background that I would have never seen coming.
Yeah, that's so cool. Now, here's one that I bet many people don't know about you. You worked as a corrections officer
I did.
for the Hampden
Yeah.
County Sheriff's Department. You and I worked together over there. How
Yeah.
did that come about?
Well, I was working. I had gotten laid off at the school in 1990.
Up in Lee, right?
Up in Lee, yeah. So I got and again, I was there for 5 years, and 4 years I got laid off in the summer. So you ask any teacher, my age, and they probably experienced the same thing. Cause,
Yeah.
like Lee Proposition 2.5 was kind of cutting budgets everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I was working at the newspapers, working another job, and then the jail was about to be opened up.
Yeah.
So my wife was pregnant at the time, and she's a nurse, and retired herself now, but works per diem.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure we had a backup health care plan. So I applied to be a teacher in the jail, and because I know they have quite GED program over there. I think they still do. And it kind of, the way it played out was they hired me as a corrections officer. And okay, take the job, we'll see what happens, and get health care and go from there. So
Right.
I ended up being there maybe like 14 months. And it was a good experience. I don't know that I would have wanted to stay there 30 years.
Yeah.
But I spent a summer working at York Street Jail.
Yep.
And that was an experience, I will have to say.
Yes, I remember
And
those days.
then another, like 10 months working at the new facility. And, like anything else, you got to take some positive from it. And I think it helped me be a better teacher. And certainly taught me to understand you have to deal with people where they're coming from, And obviously, people in the jail are at the lowest point of their lives.
Yeah.
And, you're hoping to provide an organization that's going to put them back in the community and not come back into the facility.
Right. Yeah, re-entry, getting them out, reducing recidivism.
So again, it wouldn't have been my chosen career path for sure, but it definitely made me appreciate things a lot more.
Yeah.
And it gave me a lot of empathy for the situations that people grow up in.
Of course.
That helped in the classroom, I thought.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you have your career kind of goes in that direction there. Well, you mentioned your wife. How did you and Celeste get together?
Well,
Give her
Celeste
some credit.
graduated from high school. We graduated from high school together.
Okay.
And although, we knew each other very well in high school, but, we didn't see each other till, 5-6 years after we graduated from high school. Never even ran into each other. And then just a chance to run into each other, and 35 years later,
Here you are.
I'm still hanging around.
You are, well, yeah, well, she's still hanging around. I guess we'll say it that way.
I think I'm the fortunate one here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Wonderful person. All right, so now, so you've got this career over the sheriff's department, but
Yep.
yet you still have this education in your
Well,
background.
yeah, my plan was to try to find a job teaching, and again, at that time, early 80s, mid 80s, wasn't a lot of teaching jobs happening, Basically, someone had to retire to get into a job because, the financial situation at that time.
Yeah.
So I had applied for a couple jobs. It didn't happen, and we were talking earlier. I'm in the jail working, and Mr. Cavallo, who is, I believe, a childhood friend of Sheriff Ash.
Yeah,
And so he's taking a tour of the building, and I'm in the programs building, kind of responsible for that building. And he comes in, Mr. Cavallo, Sheriff Ash, and one of the captains there, and I bring him in the building. And then they leave, and the captain comes back and really let me have it and yelling at me. And I don't think anybody's yelled at me like that since my father from back in the day.
yeah,
And I'm not exactly sure why I'm getting yelled at. And he explains to me, you have to sign people in. What if this person is kidnapping the sheriff? And I said, I didn't think the principal of Ludlow High School would kidnap the sheriff. And that was the end of that conversation.
you're right.
And then Mr. Cavallo came back in wondering what occurred. And, it's kind of a joke that we have all the time. And he says, Marty, I'll take care of you. I'll get you over there.
Right.
And then, bang, within about a year, I get a phone call. Next thing I know, I'm in there for an interview. And again, 30 years later,
Yeah.
here I am.
Did you, when you were in Lee, were you doing government and social studies and that kind of world as well?
Well, yeah, that's another crazy story. Getting the job in Lee, I came back from the West, got an interview there and got the job, but things weren't as regimented back then as they probably should have been.
Yeah.
So we were teaching a lot of stuff out of your field. So I taught health.
Really?
I taught algebra.
Oh my gosh.
I taught basic math. But you have a job, you're not going to complain,
Yeah, right.
And I will say this, in the whole scheme of things, it was better for me because I learned a lot, how to organize, how to, get kids interested in basic math, which is kind of tricky.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a learning experience. I taught 8 years. I'd already been 8 years, 5 at Lehigh, 3 at Ludlow, before I wasn't teaching a brand new class. So every year, not only am I teaching a class I taught before, I'm teaching another one, and that puts a lot of planning. So you really have to get yourself organized to make it happen.
Right. Interesting.
So when I started to have a regular schedule, I appreciated it a lot more.
Who were you working when you came to Ludlow? Who was part of that department at the time?
Well, Lenny Charest was our department chairperson, and so we had Lenny, we had Dave Larrabee, Bill Kosher,
Yeah.
Bill
Holdsworth?
Lucia, Larry Holdsworth,
Yeah.
John O'Connor, Brian Balicki, Fran Lebashevsky, and
Wow.
I know I'm going to forget somebody in there, but
Yeah. And what year is this about?
that was, I got to get my year right on this one. That was 93, fall of 93.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, my first full year at Ludlow was 93, 94.
Was it as a person who kind of walked those hallways as a student and you come back as a teacher? Was it?
Well, when
Interesting.
when I came in 14 years after I graduated, I mentioned to you, it was virtually the same school. So, all those teachers there, Steve Marino,
Right.
Bill Kosher, Lenny Charest, they were there. And some of them I had as teachers, but not a lot of people had left during that time period.
Sure.
And I think in part because of the economy.
Yeah.
And they were of the age that they weren't going to leave yet. So when I came in 14 years after graduating, it was the same school, but I was, 33 years old. I already had one son, I'm married,
Yep.
So I wasn't like a 22-year-old. I kind of knew what was up. I knew what to expect, and it was easier. I think it would be a lot harder to go in there as a 22-year-old, first year out of college.
Yeah. You've got just some lived experience, right? That you can kind of draw from in a different way, right? 'Cause-
Right, yeah. I knew what I was doing, and I'm glad I didn't start at Ludlow High School, when I started at Lee, because there'd have been too many people who knew me,
Yeah.
and too many people I know, brothers and sisters of, and so it was it worked out well.
Yeah.
But within 5 years, 6 years, it kind of cleared itself out. All those people started to retire, and then a lot newer people came in,
Okay.
which was nice too, because then you move up the ladder there, and you're less likely to get laid off.
Sure. Yeah, that's gonna be frustrating or
It's
stressful.
scary when you got
Yeah.
one kid, then another kid, and a mortgage and all that.
Yeah, that's not fun. So, like I was saying in the beginning, you kind of remind me of kind of the old school teacher that would take a big interest in what was happening outside the classroom with your students as well, too. Like I said.
Yeah, well, I thought that worked well for me. And, Mr. Cavallo, when he hired me, like, Marty, you're going to do this,
Yeah.
And it's not like, you were being volunteered. You're going to coach the baseball team. You're going to do this here. And, okay, call me up on the phone. Marty, you're now the class advisor.
Yeah.
Thanks, which
Really?
ended up being a great experience,
Yeah.
But so that was really encouraged to take a lot of extracurricular positions. And I think it worked for me also, because I'd make connections with the kids, and then it would make the classroom go easier.
Well, like we were saying before we started this, we were chatting a little bit. When you came, you see a kid at an event the night before and be like, "Hey, great,
Yeah,
whatever."
right, yeah.
You kind of make that connection.
Yeah,
but even in the
definitely.
classroom, as you're doing your lesson, like you said, you can kind of deviate a little
Yeah.
bit and then bring it back to what you're doing.
But once I could get their attention, the kids' attention on whatever the topic might have been, then I could seamlessly shift to whatever our curriculum was on that particular day.
Yeah, right.
But it was easier in history, easier in government. It was a lot harder in algebra, at least for me, or basic math, to
True.
make that shift.
Yeah.
You really added up some points on a basketball court lesson.
How many years total did you do?
Teach 35.
Wow. Okay. That's between Lee and Ludlow. Okay, both of those. So that's a pretty. How long have you been out?
I retired in 23, so this is my third year. June
Okay.
of 23.
So over that amount of time, you really saw a lot of changes in education and how it's.
Yeah, definitely. The technology for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Technology without a doubt. But how about just the state kind of, when I was on the school committee, it always felt like, okay, we're going to throw away everything we did last year. We're going to try now this thing now because there's a new.
But it seems like it comes back around, And I can say this now,
You
but
can say whatever you
I'm
want.
not the best guy to. I didn't always pay attention to what was coming down the pipeline, I did my classroom the way I thought was best fit
Yep.
within the parameters that I obviously had.
Yeah.
But I remember writing something, sending out to the teachers when I was retiring. We're always going to get these things sent down from the turnpike, and I said I would just look through them, decide what parts work best for me,
Yeah.
and ignore the rest, which
Yeah.
is certainly not good advice to give some young teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, are there people elsewhere making decisions that aren't in the classroom? Yes, but I'm sure that's in every field that's out there,
Yeah, I'm sure that is true. But one thing that we pride ourselves on in Massachusetts is we've always had a really strong public school system.
And we do.
Yeah.
Massachusetts kids, Ludlow kids go on to college and do fine,
Yeah.
And so obviously we're doing something right, but I think that's in part from the dedication of the people who go into the career
Yeah.
and then stick it out. Does the state provide us good resources? Well, probably better than most states. Could we get more? Yeah.
Yeah. When a new teacher would come in your department or just in the building itself, how would you kind of be that mentor?
But we did have a mentor program that people would get paid
Go
to
over here.
take on some young teachers and show them the ropes. But even if you weren't in the mentor program, if you had a new teacher next door to you, you were helping them out. you
Yeah.
know? And in part because other people helped me out, or other people helped them out. So you try to get them to understand the way things had to be organized. But they still, at the end of the day, they had to go in there in front of those kids and do what they had to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ludlow had a very good mentorship program. Lehigh did not. I was kind of thrown to the wolves over there. It worked for me, but it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's there right now, but like I said, even if you weren't directly a part of that, people would look after you.
Yeah. How about
show you the ropes?
Helping or to instill, because again, my opinion of you is that you have a lot of community pride. You're a Ludlow guy and you're proud of the community. And how do you instill that? How do you instill that in, say, like a new teacher coming on board?
Well, depending on who the administration was at the time, there would be people who would try to hire people who were going to be in the community, whether they went to the school system or they're moving into the community. They thought if you were in the community, it worked better. Now, other administrations might have a different attitude on that, but they definitely try to get people to, go to events at night, go out to a restaurant in Ludlow, see what the community is like, so you can connect with these kids. And that's always been encouraged.
Yeah.
And then, I think sometimes, for reasons, people, no, I want to have my life over here and separate myself from the students, and everybody separates myself from the work. And then some people don't mind being in the community.
Yeah.
In my case, I think it worked really well for me. 99% of my interactions in the community have been positive. There have been a few that haven't.
Yeah.
But that goes with being a teacher or being a public servant.
Yeah. Do you I mean, you've only been out for 3 or so years, but so I'm sure wherever you go, there's former students, because you have thousands of students under your belt that you come in contact with over the years.
Yeah, it does happen a lot, and I'm pretty good at remembering people.
Oh yeah.
But there are always a few that I feel bad afterwards that I don't remember them. Somebody came up to me the other day. It was a woman about my age, and I did not recognize her, and she went to Ludlow High School with me. But my thing is, when somebody comes up to me and I'm thinking, I immediately default to if they're the parent of one of my students, or if they're younger, one of my students. So I wasn't thinking of somebody back from 1980, and I felt kind of bad. But that's I'm pretty good at it, but I do forget sometimes.
You mentioned Jimmy Cavallo, and
he's the best.
It's amazing. He's such a good guy. Love that family. He has a memory, not only just a memory of who you are, he'll tell you something very specific of what you did either on in school or in the athletic field or something like that. He recently did the Hall of Fame. He was the MC.
I went to that,
Yeah, and I would have gone to it, but I was out of the country. But my brother was telling me that he was taught, he would give a little story about everybody just off the cuff.
He is good. I think that I'm pretty good at remembering people, but I don't know if I'm in second place, but I'm not in first place. Mr. Cavallo is in first place.
He is the champion of that. So, well, being a teacher is a very noble profession. I say this. My daughter's a school teacher.
My son is a school teacher.
Okay. Yeah. What are your kids doing?
My son is in his 10th year, actually. I'm kind of amazed at that. He's in his 10th year at the Hamden Charter School in Chicopee, so he teaches social studies.
Okay.
So teaches the AP program, one of the AP classes, and I taught AP at Ludlow High School for 20-something years.
What's your daughter up to?
My daughter actually works at Yankee Candle, the Newell Corporation, in product development. So she's doing well, and then probably just had a baby. So Celeste and I are grandparents for the first time around.
Yeah. Awesome, but it's a difficult position. I give a lot of credit to anybody out there that wants to get into that profession. You got to be really passionate about it, to get into it. And to your point of what you mentioned before, having some experience out in the community before you got in the classroom was probably a big benefit.
Yeah, I like history. Being a retired guy, I still read a ton of history, listen a ton of history on tape, ton of history books on tape. But there has to be a connection. The kid in front of you might like history, but the kid in front of you might not.
Right.
But you still have a curriculum to go through and deliver. So if you can make some sort of other connection there, I think it works well. Now, again, that's my personality. Somebody else's personality is different, and they have to go about it a different way.
Yeah.
But I think the kids today, it's a tough thing. And okay, I'm out a couple of years, so I'm missing some of the. Coming back to COVID certainly affected kids. But I think kids get a bad rap today. I think the kids are very good today. But you hear about, bad stories. You don't hear about the good stories. You hear about the good stories, there are way more good stories than not good stories. And my experience at Ludlow High School was they were, great kids, and, at Lehigh, I thought they were pretty good kids too, so it's just the way you interact with them.
Yeah.
But I know there's issues out there. I worked at a jail. I know there's issues out there, but I think public relations, kids are losing at that. There are so many good stories and so many good kids out there that we don't hear enough about.
Yeah.
And Ludlow High School has a lot of them.
That is true. It's still it's a solid town. It really is. So my battery's running low, so we got to kind of wrap it up. But we're gonna go. Yeah, we're gonna go over there. Then we're gonna head back to my car. So, but thanks, Marty. Appreciate it. For all your years of service.
It's getting a little cold now
the
too.
community. It is getting chilly out. Exactly. But that's gonna do it for this week's show. Like I said at the top of the show, if you want to see some previous ones, go to the YouTube channel, Riverwalk Talk with Chip Harrington, and there's some other ones out there. So we'll see you very soon. Take care.